Council for June 25th, 2025. Connie, could you please call the roll?
Scott,
Here.
Kevin,
Here.
Kimberly,
Here.
Claire,
Here.
Chris,
Here.
Connie, here, and Gus, absent.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Connie. First thing on the agenda is to hear from government officials, and I'm looking for the county representative. I don't see them. Oh, yes, I do.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
Marisol. Marisol, go ahead, please, if you're ready.
Hi, I actually I was informed that Supervisor Mueller was gonna check in for a little bit.
Do you want to wait for him?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to Deborah Penrose from Half Moon Bay.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a pretty busy week at City Council. We, staff in the ad hoc committee, met with Mercy again to continue getting some clarity on our city expectations, Mercy constraints. We hope to have a special meeting in July. And somebody is humming along while I'm speaking. Could they stop?
They've been muted. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. We continue to meet with the project team for Stone Pine Cove. Unfortunately, we have been unable to have our official ribbon cutting ceremony because the county decided it was probably not a good idea to attract attention to the folks who are moving in, since they're all farmers and some of them may well be not documented, or at least they may look suspicious because of the color of their skin to our wonderful ICE teams. We're very close to completing it. We're doing landscaping right now. It's looking really, really wonderful. If you haven't had a chance to see it, just drive down there sometime, between 9 and 5. It's open. You can drive right in and take a look. We've been working on Carter Park. It's almost done. The contractor's completing the final work, and there will be a ribbon cutting event coming up very soon. We're looking at the first weekend in August. It hasn't been decided, but a lot of it will depend on whether Mark Berman can come or not, since he was so instrumental in getting us the funding for it. And we'll have music and dancing, and then that'll be followed by the opening of the Taming of the Shrew by the Shakespeare Company, which will be running during August and September. And that's about the end of my news. So thank you all.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, are there any questions for Deborah? Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from any other government agencies that wants to make a report? Marisol, do you want to go ahead, or do you want to wait, keep waiting?
I think we're if we can maybe go ahead. Can you guys have maybe some time as soon as Supervisor Mueller walks in? I think he's going to be walking in pretty shortly.
We'll try to do that if we can.
Okay, great.
Sid, are you representing NWSD?
I also was trying to find the raise hand button on my phone. It was my computer decided to do an update right as I was trying to log in. So do you know if Penrose already logged out?
She appears to be on the screen.
Oh, good. I didn't hear what she said. Was she saying that they did already have the ribbon cutting, or the people already moved in, or we can go take a look and they haven't moved in yet?
People have not moved in. They're in the process of completing the landscaping, and it is not officially open, but the gateway is open, and I've driven in a couple of times to take a look. There will not be a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Okay. But what was the thing with Mark Berman in August? That's kind of like later after they've moved in, there might be something or not.
That was Carter Park, I believe.
I'm sorry, too many people were talking. The August thing was what?
Carter Park, wasn't that right, Debbie?
Oh, okay, okay. Alrighty. And then as far as MWSD goes, they had a special meeting the day after the event at Ray Mueller's office, and hardly any of the public came, but they raised all their rates 9% for the coming year on the water, sewer, and garbage. That's all I have. And then they canceled the following meeting. The regular meeting was canceled. So I don't think they're going to have another meeting until July.
I have a question for you, Sid, as a member of MWSC. There are a number of venues within the district where it seems to me you could have your meetings. Have you considered
Such
using
as?
the sheriff's office or any other facility like that?
Which office?
Sheriff?
I suggested it to Clemens, and he told me that he asked Supervisor Mueller, and the answer was no. And I suspect it might have something to do with what's going on with the sheriff, but I don't know. And the other thing is, it might have something to do with the fire department, because I think they might have contracted to use some of that space when they're building. I think they're using some space down in Lower Moss Beach when they're moving the fire station for remodel, but I'm not sure because that's all Clemens. I did give Clemens the name of I forget right now the name of them, but they rent portables, and I don't know where we're at with that, because at our last meeting we didn't discuss it. We were going over the budget stuff. But he did call the guy. I had the guy give him some bids for portable classroom type things, those trailers that they rent. And, well, the CCWD used them once when they had a fire. So I thought, well, we could do that for a while until we get our remodel done. And I don't even know when the plan is. So we haven't had a good meeting recently because of all the other budget we had to go over and stuff. Anyway,
Well, if I could speak for the MCC, we would support you trying to find someplace to meet and be happy to.
Ray offered his office, but it's not within our district. And I don't know why Clemens couldn't be adaptable and use it just temporarily, but it might have to do with not wanting to have to schlep all the equipment down there and set it up. But I really don't know, because we haven't discussed it at any of the meetings, but I will bring it up again. And okay, I did personally reach out to Sharon Dardanelle, because we used to meet at Cypress Meadows, but as you probably know, they rented that whole space out to eating disorder group that rents the entire facility, and that's no longer available. She stopped doing even the concerts at Cypress Meadows during COVID, so that's not a possibility anymore.
Okay,
and
well, thank you for thinking about it.
The only other place I thought of was the wine room, but that's kind of not very conducive to a public meeting, but who knows? Any other ideas, let us know. I'll ask him again about the sheriff's office, but I could ask Ray if he ever comes, if he comes online to the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I guess we're still waiting for Ray. In the meantime, let's go on to public comment. We're open to speakers of up to 3 minutes on any topic that's not on the agenda. Larry, yours is on the agenda, so you'd be on later. And is there any public comment? Okay, perhaps not. We'll move on to the consent agenda. And what's on the consent agenda is 3 things. Is there a problem?
No, definitely not.
Okay. You're looking at me funny.
Oh, no, I'm just waiting.
Okay.
I'm ready to vote yes.
The minutes from the both May meetings and the letter that we discussed at our meeting on the 28th regarding code violations by Seton Coast side which has been posted and which hopefully people have read. So is there
I make a motion to approve.
thank you, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Connie, you call the roll?
Sure. Chris,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes,
Kimberly,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Connie, yes.
okay, so we are just moving right along here. This is going to be a long meeting, but perhaps not as long as I thought. Caltrans is going to be here for the first item, but they're not going to be here until 7:40. So what we could do is go ahead and have Cliff do his presentation if you're ready to do that.
Sounds great.
Okay, so we have Cliff Voss, who I believe is retired from USGS and a resident of Seal Cove. And we've invited Cliff to come just to give us an overview of the geology of Seal Cove so that we kind of know what we're looking at. This is not an official presentation. This is not the final word, but it's something so that we have the basic science. So welcome, Cliff.
Yeah, let's see if this can work.
If you would rather sit at the table, you can.
Yeah, that might be
Ken, is
easier.
there a mic?
Yeah, why don't you
Yeah.
take my?
Pull the chair.
Oh, there's Ray. You might have been preempted.
That's fine.
But you can still have a seat next to Connie. and just-
Ray, we were just going to do a thing on the geology of Seal Cove because we were moving ahead of our schedule. Do you want to give a report first?
Either way is fine, I'm planning on being through the whole meeting, so whatever works best for everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, why don't you go ahead because we just finished up government officials.
So, good morning, good evening, everyone. Apologies for we just went through 3 days of pretty intense budget hearings at the county. Start with the tough news first. I think everyone knows that the state has a pretty significant budget deficit this year. It's in excess of, well, it's still growing. On top of that, we anticipate and have already started to see federal funding cut, both explicitly and implicitly through the changing of programs. Now we actually are seeing direct impact from that. So the county has a $4.9 billion budget, but most of that are pass-through dollars that run into our different county departments to be delivered as services. But we also have our own revenue that comes to us to fund programs. Part of the revenue we get is something called the vehicle license fee. It's complicated formula. How we get that basically it goes back to when there was a vehicle license fee back when Schwarzenegger was governor. He cut it. That money would get dispersed to all of the different cities and counties. A formula that I'm not going to try to explain to everybody was put in place to try to make up for that and give funding to the cities and counties in the absence of it. The way that formula worked, however, there were about 3 counties that came up on the short end of that funding. And so when they applied the formula, those counties didn't get what they would have gotten through the vehicle license fee. They weren't fully funded while everyone else was. It was a weird anomaly. San Mateo County was one of them. We are very much a donor county in the state. We give far more than we get back. And that goes across education, goes across everything. What happened at that time, Jared, was there was an agreement when they came up with this new formula with Governor Brown that they would always do a budgetary fix each year to address it. The last couple of years, we had to fight for that budgetary fix. And this year, for the first time, in light of the budget difficulties of the state, they actually lined out our VLF, which was to the tune of $121 million. There was a fight, and they ended up in the final revise giving us back 66% of it. But 33% is significant. It's a very significant cut. For most cities in the county, this cut is resulting in people going from small surpluses or even to deficits. There are multiple cities in my district now that have gone into deficit because of this cut. The county is trying to figure out how we're going to absorb those cuts. But more importantly, that VLF, we have been told by the Department of Finance that this may be the last year we get it at all. Well, that VLF is projected to grow over the next 5 years. So this year it'd be $121 million. In the years into the future, it's 150, 160, $170 million. So it's just a significant projection of cut. The other thing that we looked at, which is very difficult in San Mateo County, is that going back to 2000, so from 2010 to 2019, we saw a really great job growth. We saw a booming economy. Since 2019, job growth has basically been flat. And when you look at what the outlook looks like in terms of also property values, we're looking at really hard time coming right now. And so we're trying to get ready for that at the county, but we more than likely are going to need to make cuts this year. And the way we disperse Measure K is also going to be changed significantly. I am myself personally walking to Sacramento right now about if there's any way possible we can get a trailer bill to get back that 33% and trying to explain the impact. But it's difficult. On top of that, and I can give you examples of what's happened with the federal government. We had, as you guys know, we did that CRISP plan. Coastal Resilient Infrastructure Strategic Plan that looked at infrastructure up and down the coast, ranked them. A lot of the money that we were going to depend on that would come down from. So whenever the Department of Public Works does work, they really try to partner it with grants to make it go further. And so an example is Marauder Road. We actually were in the process for what's called a BRIC grant through FEMA. Thought we had a pretty good chance of getting that BRIC grant. When I was in Menlo Park, we got one for $40 million. So it's a significant amount of money. FEMA cut the BRIC program. It's gone. And in light of the fact they're also talking about getting rid of FEMA, but they got rid of the BRIC grant. So infrastructure projects that used to be funded by that, we're now looking to try to figure out other sources. So that outlook sort of gives you where we are right now. Now, and during the budget process, I spent a lot of time talking with the Department of Planning, and the Department of Public Works about where we find other budgetary sources to do infrastructure work that's needed in my district. And so, for instance, I know a lot of people are interested in what's happening in Seal Cove, trying to figure out how can we help people who live there, from having them form their own special district, to the county finding money to try to make infrastructure improvements, to there are some processes where you actually have people sell their development rights and transfer them and monetize them as a way to bring in money, and they lose some development rights on their property. So we're looking at, right now, I have the county looking at every possible thing to try to figure out how we can help in that community while we're still waiting for the geological survey report to come back to tell us what's happening with the ground. At the same time, and it was public, I'm also asking for more information from the Montero Water and Sanitary District, because as we go out and we look at the ground out there, there is no question where that pipe burst, there is significantly more ground movement than other places. So we're trying to just figure out what happened. Not necessarily, it could be chicken and egg. We don't know we don't know. We're just trying to get the information and be able to share it with people. And so we're going to attempt to do that and get it so that everybody has that transparently. County parks, during that part of the budget process, I made sure that there was funding secured to go ahead and keep doing fire mitigation around Quarry Park. Part of that plan that hadn't been done in the past was in the area that hasn't been touched yet. They're going to start going into that area. So the money's been set aside for that work. So I was able to make sure that that's protected. And that's really the paradigm we're in right now, is protecting projects to make sure they remain funded. And so those projects are still protected. I will share openly with everybody because it's open and transparent in the meeting. I encourage county parks to start working with the Parks Foundation to try to figure out how to generate their own revenue. So corporate retreats, things like that, because we need to keep park maintenance and things up. And last time the county went through a significant downturn, people talked about selling parks off. I don't want that to happen again. We have a new threat here on the coast, where Congressman Supervisor Spear and I are submitting letters into the public record because there is concern that the Bureau of Land Management is actually looking at drilling off our coast. So we are actually submitting letters on that right now to address that issue and trying to get mobilized on that. And I know the city of Bay, where?
Drilling for what?
Oil. We know the city of Half Moon Bay is also involved. We've received reach out from them. Supervisor Spear and I have already sent one letter off, but now there's actually a formal process for us to submit letters. We're concerned that I'm concerned that even though that Bureau of Land Management doesn't have land there, that they'll try to take it from the GGNRA in order to go ahead and do storage there. So we're working really hard on that. I can go through other areas. We sent a letter to Seton and asked them when they're opening up Seton Coastside. We got a letter back from them stating they'll let us know very soon. So we'll share that with people when they do. But I did want to share that I know the Coastside News wrote a news article saying that Dignity Health's urgent care room went away. It's not accurate. I talked about it, and you can all watch it in the budget hearings with the head of county health, but actually it's staying. And in the new paradigm, the way urgent care works these days is that you get same day appointments. You call, you get a same day appointment, and then you come in. And I know that for myself from bringing my kids to urgent care on the Bay side. It's that way certainly when I go to my Sutter Health. I call, they give me an appointment, I go in. That's how they're going to be continuing to operate Dignity Health clinic in downtown Half Moon Bay. At the same time, during those budget discussions, county health committed and talked about how they're expanding services for the Coastside Clinic to go ahead and do blood work and all sorts of things there that they're not now currently doing. So we are trying to increase, even in this downtime, it is a priority of the Department of Health to work with our stakeholder partners and continue to expand healthcare services on the coast, which I'm grateful for. Trying to think what other areas. We went through every single budget area you can think of in the last few days. Sheriff, we voted yesterday morning, for those who didn't see it, 5-0 to remove the sheriff. She has 5 days to appeal. Within that appeal process, then there'll be public hearings. No, actually, there won't be public hearings. There'll be hearings like a trial. The sheriff, it's unclear if the sheriff's attorneys are going to say that they think that should be private or not. You're pushing for them to be public because we want people to be able to see those hearings. I think I'm happy to answer any questions about any and all of that. I also have a letter we were able to I know there's questions about the Caltrans right away. And we were able to obtain a letter from Caltrans indicating that they're happy to turn it over to the county or Montero Water and Sanitary District. But there's a process that we will have to go through the Coastal Commission because of the way it was designated in the general plan for the county way back when. And so they're not just going to give it to us. We have to get a redesignation through the Coastal Commission. But we're happy to do that. But the good news is that they have indicated before they transfer it, they will do all the fire mitigation, and they've hired, and I think I've heard from folks in the community, they already see that fire mitigation taking place and starting. So they're working on that. Sure, there's a whole lot more I can share because we've been working really hard, but if there's any questions that I can answer, happy to do it.
We'll go around the table. There's probably questions. Dignity and Caltrans will both be here later in the meeting.
That's great. Happy to talk to us. I mean, Dignity should confirm exactly what I said.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, so Colleen sent me the director of health sent me the email back and forth between them confirming it, because I asked them to confirm it because of the confusion around that.
We'll go around the table first and we'll see if there's anything from the audience, the public. Scott, do you have something you want to ask?
I just would want to make one comment about filling up the coast. And at like $70 a barrel, it wouldn't be profitable to drill off the coast right now. So I'm not, personally, I'm not super scared of that happening in the short term.
Yeah, what we're more concerned about is that, and you're not wrong, but we're more concerned about is that it's a vendetta designation. That it's a stick it to Pelosi designation.
Okay.
So we just don't want that land, we don't want from a precedent set and broken.
Okay.
Kevin?
So my understanding is that a large majority of this is a vendetta game with the current administration in California. Specifically, there was some discussion around education and Trump's administration acknowledging that they would specifically withhold funding, federal funding for educational programs, various programs, if Newsom was not to remove all language around trans youth participating in school programming. So I wonder if the county is bracing for that and reaching out to the, I guess, the appropriate parties within your county, our county here.
So we don't handle education, but the county is entering into a number of lawsuits related to executive orders, stopping the flow of money coming into the state and the county. I don't know if that's one of them right now. I do know, my memory serves that I believe there was a recent district judge order in a case on that. And that they've indicated they're not allowed to do that, but the litigation's ongoing. We have a subcommittee of Supervisor Spear and the board president who is looking at litigation as it comes up and then just signing the county on.
And I guess this is going to maybe sound like a silly question. I think most of everything that we hear on the news sounds so silly these days, so maybe not. But there is a lot of discussion online on social media, people thinking that it is actually a viable idea that Newsom should withhold our taxes that we pay. And I try to tamper that down, but I think before questions start to come in around that, maybe you can kind of speak to the mythology of that.
It's mythology. It's highly illegal. The state can't do it. So
Okay.
it's not even an option to the state. Okay.
Kimberly, did you have a question?
Still absorbing it all. Thanks
Good.
for delivering the bad news. I guess I wonder, is there any way to push back on the state at all? And can it come from the grassroots?
So, yeah, so there is discussion taking place of whether or not to sue the state based on prior agreements, because having every city and the county join together in that lawsuit. There's a period of time for to try to see if we can get a trailer bill before that would take place. But if we don't get a trailer bill, that may very well be an option that will be pursued. So it's tough.
Well,
This is really a tough situation. That's the backdrop of that is San Mateo County's, I think the either the richest or the second richest county in the state. So, but we're owed the VLF, we're owed. So
As always,
first quarter.
yeah.
I mean, we're just gonna go around the table. As always, we would like to be included in any of this. We can lend our support along with the cities.
Yeah,
So, keep us in the loop and
We
let us know how we can help.
absolutely will. And I am looking to see also, we are crafting a letter. I didn't talk about this in the presentation, but I know that you're all very interested in being involved in the Burnham Strip discussions as a stakeholder. So my office is crafting a letter saying that you all should, just asking that you all be involved in those discussions with the city of Half Moon Bay, with the Harbor District, since it obviously affects your community and Elgin Community Services District.
Great. Chris?
The question,
We're going around.
No.
Council yet, you have to wait.
just clarification, what?
We're just going around. Chris?
I wonder if you could comment a little bit more on this coastal commission process with regard to the Caltrans right away. I mean, I know coastal commission can be a deep topic to descend into, but I just wonder if you understand anything about what that is about.
Yeah, I think the reason why is, I don't think we're gonna have difficulty getting the coastal commission to sign off on it because the Caltrans right away, as I understand it, was set aside actually to build roadway. And this designation would take it away from that. So I think that coastal commission would probably be happy with that taking place. But nonetheless, within the general plan that was approved at one time, that was a part of it. And so it's actually part of the land use plan of the county and designated as such. And whenever the county changes its land use plan and within the coastal zone, it has to go to the coastal commission for sign off. Now, that is what Caltrans has told us. We will check with the coastal commission and make sure that that's accurate, that they feel that they need to do that. But that is what Caltrans has said needs to be done before they'll sign off on it.
So a little bit more of a pro forma kind of thing than a typical CDP.
Right.
process.
It's just a pro forma, go through the process, get it done, and then they're happy to convey.
Thanks.
Connie?
I had two really. One was, you mentioned the flat job growth rate. Do you have any plans to help improve that? And then two, just what do you mean by changes to the Measure K allocation?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I actually did ask that of a lot of our departments is because I said, my point was when we do these budget hearings, so much of it's internal facing. And the question we have to ask ourselves is what can we do externally facing to actually improve things? So, but it's a lot of outside the box thinking. So in other states, they're getting very aggressive, like in Texas, there are counties that have created housing banks where they're actually doing the lending at a lower interest rate. Because one of the things that's happened to our economy right now is and I've tried to make this point, is everyone says build more housing, build more housing, build more housing. What they're actually saying is zone for more housing. Because there's a lot of housing on the books right now that's not being built because construction costs are high and interest rates are high. And when you look at the number of starts that are actually sitting there vacant, it's pretty startling up and down the peninsula. And that has a direct effect on a number of jobs and also the cost of living. So if the cost of living is high, companies don't want to stay here or move here. And so the question is, can you think outside the box and figure out how to lower those interest rates? I am not sold on that, but I am sold on looking at out-of-box alternatives. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely comfortable yet with the idea that we would use public money in that manner. There are tax credit things available for affordable housing, but just to get the market rolling is tough. But those are the types of solutions that we have to start trying to look at thinking about. Supervisor Spear has talked about the fact that we have a convention center in San Mateo County. I mean, we have a airport in San Mateo County, but we don't have a convention center. Why don't we? What are the things that we can do to get more business friendly that would actually try to spur the economy a little bit? And so certainly on the coast side, having better connectivity would help with that. So,
And Measure K?
and Measure K was a tax that was passed by the voters in San Mateo County. So you know what it is. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's allocations that we do every year. Some of the Measure K is siphoned off to board offices for us to do discretionary grants. I think that's going to go away. I don't think we're going to be able to do those anymore. It's hard to say that. Then the other thing that happens is that there are portions that are given out through a formalized grant process through the county, and they're apportioned in different subject matter areas. When we make those grants, the county usually makes them out in 3-year increments. This year, when awarding Measure K grantees or even prior grantees, they're being notified that it's only a guaranteed promise for 1 year. Because we may need to do clawbacks. And so for a number of Measure T grantees who aren't going to be happy, but we're in the position where we're going to have to figure out we really are gonna have to get very strategic in how and making sure we're delivering supportive services.
Can I ask
Okay.
a clear?
I would really, we're a little tight on time.
All right.
I would like to sort of try to keep to our schedule as much as we can. I've got 3 people in the public who want to ask questions, Sid, Ann, and Burnett. And I don't know if there's anybody in the room that
Yeah.
had their hand up. Okay, so Sid, Ann, Burnett, and Cliff, and then we'll close this section.
Well, Sid and Ann joined me in the budget meetings, but sure.
Okay, Sid, you want to go first?
Am I unmuted now?
You are, please ask your question quickly and we'll move on.
I've been waiting a while, so one of them was the question you asked me to ask Ray, so that wasn't one of my questions. Ray, before you got here, Claire was asking me if Clemens had approached you about renting or holding our meeting in the sheriff's department at the Moss Beach substation. Do you know if he approached you on that?
No, he has not. And we got a preliminary response from them, and it didn't contain such a request either.
Oh, okay. He told us that he had asked you. All right, thank you. And then so we could maybe do that. Is that room available in the back of the substation in Moss Beach?
Well, that's the sheriff's substation, and I know in the past that they haven't been excited about holding. I don't know. I mean, the long and the short of it is I'm happy to ask the sheriff's department, but my guess would be that I mean, they didn't remember, Sid, when we've had past events, emergency events on the coast. They haven't been excited about opening up the substation and instead have brought in trailers. I'm not sure they're excited about having people within the station for obvious reasons related to the delivery of their mission objectives. But I'm happy to ask.
Well, you know, we are looking for spaces, but anyway. All right. So that was actually Claire's question.
Recording in progress.
God.
Okay.
And so the other thing was, I noticed at the meeting that I've been attending for the last 3 days virtually, that it didn't seem like planning had really good answers when you guys were asking him questions about they weren't keeping track of the money they were taking in. And that kind of explains that money's fungible when it comes into the county. So when every time they build a new construction in Seal Cove, they charge mitigation fees, but we can't really show any kind of accounting that assures that it gets invested back into our neighborhood or even the nearby community. Because it goes back to Redwood City and we pretty much never see it again. We don't have a community center. You know, I sound like a broken record, but there's no senior center, there's no childcare, no community pool, no library, no emergency evacuation center. And it's been that way a long time. We didn't even get any road funding this time for the next 2 years. All they did, the whole thing Ann Stillman put out for us was roadside weed abatement. Big deal, you know? And so I wish going forward, and I heard them talk a lot about AI, maybe they could start tracking the budget of where our property taxes go by zip code or APN number and put it in a pot together so that it stays tracked by county. So that
That may have been the timer
community.
going out.
So Sid, I mean, you may, I'm not sure if you remember me. So number one, I will get a hold of what the mitigation fee, what mitigation fees have been paid. But there's not a lot of houses, but I will get a track for what mitigation fees were paid. But, what you may not recall, but when Ann was up and she was talking and we were talking about Seal Cove, I made a point of saying to Ann, I understand right now that you don't have a plan yet because we're waiting for the geological survey to come back. And it's something that we're going to need to talk about in the revise in terms of putting money toward it. And she said, yes.
Oh,
And And that's kind of where we are right now, is that we're waiting for that geological survey to get done, because so that they know how much money to set aside to budget for it.
Actually, I'm not talking about just Seal Cove. I'm saying in general, for the whole Midcoast, we don't get funding. We don't get funding for roads, stormwater, a
Sid,
community center, or anything.
You've
So
expired,
therefore,
your
what
time
I'm
has
saying,
expired, Sid.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying, I can't really talk over you, Claire. I'm just trying to get my point across.
We're trying to let you know that your time has elapsed, and we're trying to keep everybody to 3 minutes. So thank you for your questions.
I'll follow up with you. Sid.
being said.
I understand your
Hey,
concern.
Ray, when are you going on vacation?
I don't go on vacation.
Oh
I'm only going away for 4 days this summer.
You deserve a vacation.
Okay, so the next person who has a comment or a question is Anne, followed by Cliff.
Hi, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to ask this question because there are rumors that there is not funding for the Moss Beach corridor, not the study itself, but the actual improvements that are being planned for or studied. And I would like you to please clarify, is that the case? Will they be making the improvements or will they not be? Thank you.
So Ann, you might recall that at the time that happened, I said that the construction shouldn't take place until those improvements happen. And I still believe that. No one has told me that those improvements aren't funded. And so I will continue to press to make sure that they're funded, but I don't know where that rumor has come from because no one has said that to me.
What's Ann's last name?
Rothman.
Okay. Maybe we can ask people to speak their name, please, their full name, if we could. It's not on the Zoom.
And
But I will say, Ann, I appreciate the question because I'm only one supervisor. So I appreciate the question. I appreciate you staying on top of it. It's a fair concern. And I will ask them and Marisol, I know you're on the line. Please make a note that we need to ask and make sure that corridor project is still on track.
okay, thank you. Cliff?
Real quickly, just a clarification. You said San Mateo County is the richest or second richest in California. Is that a measure of tax income or what is that? What's rich mean?
It's a measure. I'm not sure. I think it's I think it has to do with the income of the residents.
It is the residents income, not the county government.
Right, not the county government.
Okay.
Don't forget this.
Thank you. That was very helpful, and I'm glad you came.
So I do my best. So I'll be here to answer questions the rest of the night if you have any questions.
Okay, I'm still up. It's Burnett.
Hey, Burnett.
Okay, your hand was down. I thought you would.
No, it's been up the whole time.
Please ask your question.
Okay, it's a partly statement, partly question. As you know, Ray, the MCC recently submitted a stormwater report. From what you're saying, from what you've said, is it looks like there's going to be very limited funds going forward now that we're going to have these tight budgets. Ferdinand Avenue, where they're doing a stormwater project, will probably be done. But in that report, that was identified as a less critical project per that report that was submitted. When we talked and the county came in and talked a little bit about that project, they say the selection of how they select these stormwater project is based on what the public works employees that go out and deal with some of the flooding submit to them. That's how they're identifying these projects and deciding how critical they are. The MCC asked to be more involved in the selection of the stormwater projects. So hopefully the selection process can be expanded in the future to get more local input on the selection of some of these stormwater projects when and if the money becomes available in the future.
Yeah, I'm happy to advocate for that. But to be candid with you, Burnett, a conversation that I'm probably going to have with the community is whether or not the community is open to a stormwater management assessment. So back at the time when Rich Gordon was supervisor, there was a decision not to go forward with it. And it sure would help in this area to have a fund set aside for it. So, and people don't want to do it, that's fine. But I'm just trying to figure out, I know there's a plethora of projects that people want. And I'm just trying to figure out how to get them done. So, and if people don't want to do that, I get it. But all I can do is try to present possible solutions to get things done faster.
Okay, thanks, Ray. I appreciate that. But I would be definitely in favor of developing other funding source, however they may be.
I know everybody is always interested in other funding sources, but the other thing I'll tell you is I cannot tell you how many taxes people are talking about bringing to the ballot this year. So I completely get it. What I say to you is all I can do is be transparent with you in terms of what the budget situation looks like and managing expectations. So if people want it done faster and get some help, and if they don't, then I'm going to have to figure out a way to budget it over time, fight for it every budget, because as the county budget gets squeezed, every district's budget's getting squeezed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 5 items rather than the usual 3 on our regular agenda tonight. And the first item is regarding the Caltrans right-of-way in Moss Beach in Montera. And we have 2 guests here from Caltrans, Janine Crawford, who is public relations representative from Caltrans, and John Carlston, who is the district office chief for right-of-way appraisal and excess land and property management. So I think you've both been made co-hosts.
Yes.
So I will turn it over to one of you to get started.
Janine, you're muted.
Hello, sorry about that. I was muted. Am I sharing my screen by any chance?
Yes.
Okay, great. We don't have a lot of slides for you tonight, but I am just here I will introduce myself. Again, thank you for that introduction. I'm Janine Crawford. I am the Public Information Officer at Caltrans for San Mateo County. As you heard, I'm here with my colleague, John Carlston. I'm going to turn it over to John in just a second, but before I do, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting us here to talk about the Devil Slide parcel and our fire mitigation efforts in the parcel. I wanted to acknowledge that we are very, very well aware of the concerns of the community with regard to fire and wildfire. As you know, the state fire marshal reclassified lands throughout California under state responsibility. And some of those lands included this parcel, and they are now part of the land is considered a very high fire risk. We are very well aware of that. We, like you, watch the news and have seen all of the fires that have been happening throughout California over the past few years. At Caltrans District 4, we live in the Bay Area. We are part of the communities here. Many of us live along the coast and share your concerns personally as well as professionally. So we want to be good partners here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John. And John, we just have a few slides, really just for some visuals. Just let me know when you'd like me to.
Go ahead, whatever you're ready.
And let's just make sure it's working. I'll let John start, and then just FYI, you may have seen us out in the parcel. We've had many site visits now. We've been there with CAL FIRE. This is just a few weeks ago with the team.
Can I stop you for just 1 second? I have a quick question. You're referring to the Devil Slide bypass area. We're not talking about the part along the slide on Highway 1. We're talking about the area through Moss Beach and Montera. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We're referring to it. It was the land that was acquired in order to create a bypass that didn't come to pass. So I'll let John explain a little bit about that.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm John Carlston in District 4 Caltrans Division of Right-of-Way. And I can tell you this picture is real because I was standing right behind there. And that was a few weeks ago. when we were out there. But as many of you probably know, these lands were purchased back in the 1970s when there were plans to different plans from what has happened, bypass Route 1 through Montera instead of following what is now or previously the Devil's Slide alignment. They were going to bypass completely around over the hillside from Pacifica. As many of you probably know in the area, there was a lot of resistance to that at the time, which there were for a lot of different routes throughout the state. And that plan was ultimately abandoned. And then we were left with some right-of-way. And then fast forward to the early 2000s, and it was decided to tunnel through the hillside into Pacifica. And now we've got the Devil's Slide Tunnel. And what remains is the corridor through Montera there. And so that route before the tunnel was rescinded, but Caltrans still retains ownership of those properties through there. There have been discussions over the years off and on about officially declaring these parcels excess and then selling these lands to a local agency or special district within San Mateo County. Local agencies have expressed wish or desire to prioritize public recreation, open space, habitat protection, or trail development. But in order to do this, a trail overlay plan is required to be applied over these lands, be prepared and approved over these lands before we can declare them excess and then sell them off. Janine, back to you. Thank you.
Janine, you're muted.
Oh, John, this is a slide around fire mitigation, and I think it's, would you like to handle this one? If you'd like, I can.
Go ahead. I'm trying to get my bearings. I know that one of those is along Drake Street, I think.
So this is just, we've obviously been out a few times, like I mentioned. We took some photos just to, we took some before and afters. Here are the afters to give you all a sense of what kind of work we've been doing on the parcel over the past few months. So I think, you know, when I was out there a few times, a lot of people stopped me, asked about, you know, what we were doing. And this is just a visual to show you what we are doing is we're taking out debris, branches, we're taking out anything that could be fuel for wildfires according to what CAL FIRE is recommending. And we are reducing those risks that way. So that's what you're seeing here. That's what you've seen in the past. And this is the clearing work, which we are continuing and will continue to do forward. And I will move it along to, basically, we'll get to our plans. John?
Okay. Yes. What our plans are, and we've had CAL FIRE has been out there with us 3 times and probably will come and meet with us more. CAL FIRE recommends that property owners create a defensible space around their properties. Caltrans, the division of right-of-way that I'm in, we're working with CAL FIRE personnel. We've had a couple people out there to assess our parcels. And we've also been working with contractors and an arborist to carry out needed vegetation management work and fire abatement work. We've been working on measures we will continue to work on measures to protect environmental resources as they come up while carrying out the fire mitigation work. We've been conducting ongoing weed abatement off and on for the last couple months at least, and continuing work has consisted of removing fallen bark, limbs, leaves, pods, various other debris from trees. It's been performed in earnest throughout the months of May and June, and you will continue to see workers out again in July, probably starting up again with more work in mid-July, and that will be ongoing.
Okay. What we've been doing so far. I know we don't have a lot of time right now, but if you have any questions, please go ahead.
I'm sure we do have some questions. I think we'll start with the public. And I know that we have one speaker slip on this. So Larry DeYoung, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Janine, but we haven't moved very far, have we?
Can you stop the screen sharing?
You, Greg.
The work that you're doing right now is 30 feet along the right roads. You're not doing any work in the center. You're not cutting any trees down. Also, we have, I don't know how many times we've asked you for records on where these environmentally sensitive areas are, and you've been stalling for months. I mean, you keep getting extensions saying that you have to go to other agencies. And so basically what you've told us today, we already knew. We want to know, are you going to mitigate the center area? Are you going to get rid of non-native trees, or at least enough non-native trees so it's no longer a hazard? If not, we haven't gotten anywhere. I mean, it's nice that you did the 30 feet. Don't get me wrong, we're happy about that. But I spoke to your arborist, because your arborist is working right across the street from my house. And he said, this is just a drop in the bucket. What really needs to be done is to take out the non-native trees. Do you plan to do that?
Okay, you go ahead and sit down.
Well, I want to hear her answer first.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. DeYoung. It's Pedro Quintana here for Caltrans District 4 here, Public Affairs Branch Chief. And I just want to let you know really quickly, just want to thank you for your comments. And also, we have been very responsive to you on a monthly basis, weekly basis on your information. Currently, right now, Caltrans is working with CAL FIRE agencies on this plan. But again, we'll definitely circle back with you on your questions and get you an answer for that. Thank you.
How long is that going to take? Because we've been asking this question since January of this year. So circling back and promising.
Mr. DeYoung, we have responded to your emails various times. We have records of that. If you are requesting public records, let me finish, Mr. DeYoung. Let me finish. If you want to request public records, you have every right to do that. It's called the Public Records Act request, and we definitely send you the link for that.
You don't have to send me the link. I sent you the Public Records Act.
I would like this not to become controversial.
Well, they have my request. Janine's been responding to him and asking for extensions. So it'd be nice if you guys actually talked to each other before you came on here and told me that you're going to send me something I've already sent you.
Okay.
Mr. Yeah, we do talk every day. Have a good day, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Greg?
I would like to take a little different tone on this. I'm a member of the Red Alert Montara Moss Beach group with Larry and a number of other, possibly 100 other residents. But I also was on the MCC last 4 years. And I first want to say to Janine, I really appreciate the quality of the work you're doing. Because compared to the predecessors that I tried to deal with, it's an astounding positive change. So Janine, I know it's tough. I know we have people who are very anxious and concerned. And I just want to say in public, thank you, because you have made a big difference here. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I know this is an issue that will require money and study, but we have known for years, I've written articles about this, that the possibility of a wind-driven crown fire from the east-northeast over the mountain is the real risk. And I understand you're clearing the ladder fuel possibilities, but I really have serious concerns about whether that's enough. The volume of trees in that area is truly massive. So I just want to register that there is a real issue with wind-driven crown fires, and you saw it in Paradise and many other places. This problem isn't done until we get somebody from CAL FIRE certifying that the crown fires are actually mitigated. Thanks for your time. I look forward to continued dialogue and more progress.
Are there other people in the public who want to make comments or questions? If not, we'll close public comment and go to the council. Is there anybody in the council that would like to respond? Kevin.
Hi there. We have never spoken, so I have no reason to be contentious and hopefully can get some answers. It was nice to see the after slides, but this is the MCC. This is usually the first place that community members come for information. So before and after slides would have been helpful to be able to look at the work that was being done. I also have some questions about non-native tree and non-native tree abatement. This is a subject that has been brought to the MCC for years, actually, before I was sworn in, and it's definitely something that comes in multiple community groups. Groups that have garnered thousands of signatures, have worked with county offices to try to get answers. So it's nice to have both of you here at the same time, but I've not seen any formal response from Caltrans or CAL FIRE as it pertains to tree abatement, especially in this time where the zone shift has happened and many community members are absolutely terrified. We face loss of insurance on a regular basis. And so this is a real problem that should be addressed in the public forum, not to an individual circling back to an email. But those questions, that question in particular, when is tree abatement, non-native tree abatement, going to be addressed and in what capacity? If your hands are tied because of budget constraints, and a lot of organizations have that where they budget 2 and 3 years out, by all means, share that with us. I think you have a scared community, and it's very easy for fear to turn into agitation and sound like anger. And I'm trying not to do that here with you tonight, but to ask you to kindly communicate with one another and maybe bring that information to this group at a future time so that some concrete answers can be disseminated amongst our community.
Do you want to respond to that or just hear it?
Yeah, we can definitely respond to that. Listen, let me just be very clear. Janine and I know the coastside area communities. We understand the concerns from this community. We have seen the Palisade fires, the Camp Fire in Paradise, the devastation for that. To answer your question, we are still working with CAL FIRE agencies to come up with a tree abatement plan, tree mitigation plan. So it's still a process, right? We're not talking about one parcel, we're talking about acres, more than 10 acres, I believe, of land that we're definitely working on right now. I agree with you. This should be a very open public conversation. And this is here, Caltrans is here on good faith to start this conversation with the Midcoast community, with the elected officials as well. And so we'll definitely continue this dialogue with the community, with the Midcoast Commission as well. And we'll go from there.
I have to say, just thank you very much for your response. It's the first time that I've heard that the two organizations are actually working on a mitigation plan. And I'm sure our chair would echo the sentiment that if there is a defined plan that moves in, whether it's in segments or sections. We understand the limitations of your organizations, and I know that you guys are doing the hard work, but coming back to this group with some definitive answers would be immensely helpful, not only to the MCC, but to the community that we serve. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
I totally agree. Thank you.
Kimberly, you had something you wanted to ask?
I do. I have 3 questions.
Make it with 3 minutes.
Okay, first of all, I also really appreciate the work that you've done. You were out there, I think, 4 weeks in a row. It's hard work, removing trees. It takes time. And I would see you out there every day because I also live in the neighborhood. So I really appreciated the work that was done, and I understand that it does take time to get the remaining work done. The other thing, I just want to reiterate what the others have said, that it is a huge community concern. And I think often, and I appreciate that you said that, you're coming forward in good faith to try and talk to the community and work with us. But historically, Caltrans has sort of stonewalled the community and not responded very well to many things. And so I really welcome a change in that way of operating. And I think, Caltrans has a really terrible reputation in that regard. So what I heard Janine say was that you're aware of concerns of the community and you want to be good partners. And the wildfire issue is not the only issue that we're facing. We are also ground zero for the Highway 1 Surfers Beach projects. And we've been, as you know, I reached out to you to try and get some information on that so that we could be a partner and stakeholder at the table. We are a primary stakeholder in that. I would say that Half Moon Bay is also a stakeholder, but they are less impacted than our community, especially El Granada. So, I just want to emphasize that point that we are a primary stakeholder. The Midcoast Community Council represents the unincorporated coast. Our office that we're meeting here in tonight is right across from Surfers Beach in El Granada. And I'd just like to understand why we don't have a seat at the table and are not consulted in these as part of these conversations that you're having on these issues.
I will just quickly take that. Thank you for your comments. I believe the Midcoast, this is a long project, and I know we're supposed to be talking about fire mitigation, but when it comes to the Highway 1 multi-asset project, I do know that the Midcoast was part of all of the meetings that we had with all of the different communities. And I can talk to you offline about that and when those took place and who was involved from Midcoast. I wasn't here then, but I do know that the council was part of many of those discussions.
We haven't been a part of any of the recent conversations about the parking mitigation, which the Coastal Commission ordered. So I'm happy to follow up with you separately. I don't want to belabor that in the context of this, but as you know, we had asked you also to speak about that tonight, and you declined.
Yes, we will be happy to speak about that at a future date when we have more information, and I can talk to you about that at another time.
Thank you.
I think, Janine, that part of what Kimberly's trying to say and has said it very clearly is we would like to be part of what happens with that particular issue rather than just be notified of the results. So hopefully we can work that out. Chris, you had something?
Yeah, thanks. Back to the double slide Montero right of way. One of the earlier speakers brought up concerns about environmentally sensitive areas. I wanted to ask, is Caltrans obligated to prepare a natural environment study like they do for other roadway type projects for this effort?
John, do you have that answer, John?
I don't have a good one, admittedly, for this, only because this is not, you know, we're of course bound by NEPA and CEQA, that we have to follow those standards. But what we're doing, progressing right now with trying to perform maintenance, that's a little bit of a different matter. So going off on the environmental aspect of it right now, at this stage, when we're trying to move forward with maintenance and vegetation management, I think is a little premature.
Well, I would think that the maintenance you're doing is deferred maintenance and probably not subject to a management plan, because there isn't one. And so I'm just curious, what is guiding the crews who are doing the work out there during nesting bird season and you know, other sensitive environmental resources out there? What's guiding them from you know, doing damage? It can't all be done under the guise of maintenance and fire fuel abatement unless it's an emergency.
I can ask one of my colleagues in the environmental division for more input. I can say that they have been out there already. And I have heard no concerns raised as yet, but I do know who to ask.
Okay.
Well, that'd be great if we could get an answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Definitely
Connie,
follow up.
want to say something or?
Yeah, we'll follow up. Thank you.
I just had one question. I thought I understood that Caltrans was going to produce a report about the plans for Highway 1 in the month of June. Is that something that is going to be published soon?
What type of plan, what in relation to the fire?
No, Highway 1 near Surfers Beach. I thought there was some plans that there was something that would be published about that might be taken.
What you're talking about is the Coastal Commission
Oh, it's not Caltrans.
request to Caltrans. They're supposed to come up with a plan for Surfers Beach, where they now have riprap that they have to get a renewal of their CDP. I think that's what she's talking about, Janine.
Yeah.
Okay, I will check with the project manager on that question.
Okay, thank you.
You know, it looks like there's a number of things that you're going to get back to us on, and we appreciate you doing that. We also really appreciate your coming.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the past, we've had trouble getting Caltrans to come to meetings, and you've been very cooperative and very, very, you know, approachable, and we appreciate that a lot. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ask one more question.
No.
That's related to Chris. It's quick. I just want to ask, you mentioned vegetation management, and I'm out there every day because I live there. There is no pesticide or herbicide spraying going on, is there, or plans for that?
There is no spraying right now, and there is no plans to spray. We have no plans to spray. Now, if when we get the plans from you know, working with CAL FIRE and the vegetation management and environmental group, if that changes, of course, we will let the community know if there would be plans for that, but there are not right now.
Okay, because that community also is full of children.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thanks a lot. We'll move on to the next topic on the agenda, which is the experience of urgent care on the coast side.
Thank you.
Sarah, I had my hand up. You're not going to take public comment?
No, we already did.
We did.
It's closed. Okay,
I
so
only heard, oh, sorry.
we have with us tonight, maybe you could make her a co-chair, a co-host as well, Chris, please. Elaine Wachter. And Elaine, I know that you are filling in for Marie President, who was going to be here earlier. So I don't know your title. Maybe you could introduce yourself, and as soon as you are able to join us, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Elida walker. I'm fondly called by most patients by my nickname, Ellie. Yeah. So I have been working as a clinical professional and have experience for over 26 years. I'm here tonight in behalf of Dr. President, our regional director, and of course, Dignity Health Foundation. So I'm joining this Zoom meeting to inform the public of that 6-month pilot program closure and the status of our service here in the office. I will answer questions to the best of my knowledge, as clear as I can, and as many as I can tonight.
Well, one of the things that we really do have that we mostly want clarified is the status of the clinic. There's been a lot of information in the community that it's completely closed, that you can't go there unless you are already a Dignity patient, that you won't take any insurance other than some sort of Dignity insurance. I don't think any of those things are true, but we would really like to know what the situation is.
Sure, yeah. So we have a provider in our office, Cassandra Annunciata. She's, of course, a PA here in our office. She is here Monday through Thursday. She does see patients from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 5:40 at times. Dr. President is in our office most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. And because of the closure of that 6 months program pilot, what we are offering the community is we can see patients as a walk-in and we will try our best to put them in between the patients that are already scheduled. As long as, yes, we do take their insurance. If they have, for example, Kaiser Permanente, that would be very challenging for them. So things that, for example, state medical, straight medical, and ACE program, that is something that we're not able to take because this is a foundation. It's not a state. We're not able to take a state medical. So we're just trying to really offer the community the best we can and really try to figure out if we can help them that same day, even that afternoon or the morning. We can make appointments for them if we can, for the other urgent cares that we have partners with. For example, Go Health. We have access to their scheduling and we can schedule for the patients when they come into the office.
Okay, so here's another question. You're asking people to call and make an appointment, but my understanding from people is that when they call, they go to the call center in Redwood City or Southern California or someplace who has no idea what you're doing. Do you have a direct number to your clinic that's answered?
Mm-hmm. Hi, Dr. Tutan. No, we're not asking them to make an appointment. We welcome them to come in and walk in. We will see if there is a space for them to be seen that day. If we take their insurance, we can see them. If we do not take their insurance, we can help and make appointment for them for the urgent cares that we have partnered with, such as Go Health. We have access to their scheduling. So before they leave, our offer is we will make your appointment for you. And it is very challenging to call into this office because I know we are a small clinic here, but we are not actually small. We are a part of a big foundation, Belmont Dignity, Belmont Santa Cruz, Belmont Foster City. So when you come in and when you call in, it is actually a call center. And correct, it is a call center, just like when you call other foundations, it is a call center. So
Okay, I have one more.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have one more question and I'll let
Sure,
the
sure.
other people talk.
No worries.
Do you have access to your statistics about usage during the pilot program?
I do not, doctor. Yeah.
So
I know I'm one of the clinical that had seen the patients. I'm one of the personnel that actually saw the patients here and given so many shots to patients that needed it. But our numbers were really high towards the end because of how much we have marketed. So the last few months we were seeing 30 maybe a day versus when we started in October, it was maybe 8 a day.
Okay, thank you.
So I asked Peter Shee from County Department of Public Health to also attend tonight. He's on the line and he can talk about plans for Coastside Clinic to go ahead and supplement for the government patients. So Dr. Shee.
Yeah. Medical degree on me, Supervisor Mueller. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about Coastside Clinic. We have a process in place to address all the concerns that were brought up by the community, and that was written in a formal report from the Farm Workers Commission. And we are working on increasing access and adding more providers to create capacity, and looking at improving our systems because we just implemented a new electronic health record system. And so our goal is to get patients in when they need to be seen, and we have a formal process to make those enhancements.
Okay. Kevin?
So Ellie, thank you for your presentation and for your time. I just want to clarify that calls will go into the call center. You're saying that it's just easier to come in. If you have a scheduled appointment, great. If you don't, you'll try to squeeze walk-ins in between. However, you mentioned that you talked a lot about Medi-Cal. Is Medicare part of Medi-Cal? And can you please clarify for us here tonight, like what types of insurance would be eligible so that I can promote, other members of the MCC can promote this, because we really do want to see this in our community.
Sure, of course. I just do want to say out there that when we have a provider here in our office, that patient has a set schedule. They start at 8 and leaves at 5. They see 8 patients in the morning, 8 patients in the afternoon, 30 minutes each patient. So when we have a walk-in patient, for example, with someone that has a PPO plan, and we work them in between patients, that is going to cut one patient in 2, correct? 15 minutes for that patient now. When we have 4 patients walking in, now we have 12 patients in the morning, and now all 12 patients have 15 minutes appointment with the patient, with the provider. It's probably doable, but it's challenging.
Sure.
So we really would like to help as much as we can. But our offer really is to get the urgency, whoever needs help at that time. Is it a rash? Is it laceration? But that's our take. If we cannot see them, but enough that they can be seen the next day, we can help and make their appointment with a partnered urgent care, such as Go Health.
We sure do appreciate having you here in the community. You mentioned PPO plans, Medicare is also accepted. You mentioned that your numbers that it sounded like you were above capacity towards the end. Can you just briefly give us a summation as to where you're at now? Are you still beyond capacity? And how many service providers are there? Did I hear correctly that there's 2 currently?
Yes.
Yourself and the physician who spoke.
We have Cassandra. Yes, we do. We have Cassandra Annunciata here that is full-time. We have Dr. President that does Zoom. And then, we are actively trying to also interview doctors to really help the community, actively interviewing so that way we can help the community as well. I do want to make sure that I also touch bases on the insurance that we take here. So the insurance that we take here, if you have a PPO plan, we will take you. If you have Medicare, but make sure that your secondary insurance is not an HMO, because an HMO is a managed care. It means you have a designated primary care physician, in which maybe that managed care is Palo Alto Medical Foundation, which we're not able, we cannot take. TRICARE we will take, but we also want to make sure that your secondary is not, again, an HMO. Kaiser we don't take, State Medical we don't take, but yeah, those are
Well, thank you.
Of course.
I will look forward to posting and trying to get this out to the community as best as possible. And I wonder on your site if it might be something that is possible to put on your site the types of insurance that you just described in that level of detail. I think it might help a lot of people better understand your process, who you can see when and why.
Yes, thank you for the feedback. I will inform our designated department for that.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments?
Can I just add to what Ellie said? I put in the Zoom message chat section, there's an FAQ that Dignity developed that clarified all the questions that have been asked. And because I work with Dignity leadership, they are actively trying to recruit another physician to add to their primary care capacity and to be able to see what they're calling same-day services instead of urgent care. It's a common spirit term that they've used, and they want consistency on nomenclature across their entire enterprise. And so when Ellie says state Medi-Cal, it's fee-for-service Medi-Cal. And all the counties that have Medi-Cal have a managed care approach. So the managed care plan in this county is Health Plan of San Mateo. And so Dignity accepts Medi-Cal from HPSM, and there's very, very few people in the county of San Mateo that have fee for service. And so those are people who are in transition or have special health issues that require them to have a physician that sees them out of network within HPSM. But we are blessed in this county to have a health plan like HPSM that is innovative and do not create barriers to specialists. So they have contracts with UCSF and Stanford. So there's going to be very few situations where someone with Medi-Cal is not going to be accepted in this county. So once the new physician is hired, they will expand hours beyond 8 to 5. So that is the plan. And then potentially look at weekend coverage. There is a final pilot report that we're hoping Dignity can produce within the next month that we will share, they will share with the community and let everyone know what actually happened during the pilot. And we want to thank the community for motivating all of us to look at this pilot to get the data that we want, and for Supervisor Mueller to support this effort, because it's created a lot of information from us to work from. And I think that's a real help to the community to have actual hard data to understand what the need is so that we can respond appropriately.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question before you sign off?
Oh, we're not signing off yet. Ray has something he wants to say.
Well, I don't know if you guys are gonna keep going, but I did want to take the opportunity to thank Peter and also thank Elena at Dignity Health. This is, although it's not the pilot, which was the county funding urgent care for everyone, which just is obviously not sustainable. We now have healthcare on the coast that we didn't before. And it's a big improvement. And the Coastside Clinic and the plans at the Coastside Clinic that Peter and Colleen and everyone are developing will also be a big improvement. And hopefully if Seton gets that emergency room open again, then we will have a breadth of healthcare on the coast. So
I'd like to, as Peter, I think, knows, one of the things that I'm concerned about in the long run is if the county is willing to sponsor things like lab services at the county clinic, which we don't have for people who don't have government county insurance, I would be interested in pursuing some sort of partnership so that the entire community has access to some of those services. But that's a long-term project, I guess.
Connie has a question.
Yeah, no. Did you say Connie?
Yes.
Okay, Connie, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, with that data, what was the intention of the collection of the data, and you know, could it be used in a negative way for us as well? I'm not sure what the data shows. I only know from the Dignity team through H-Friendly, you know, sharing with us the response that they were getting. But as you know, they've had some trouble trying to source for resources here on the coast. So, you know, one, we want to continue to see how we can support that. But what was the intention of the data, and how you would use that, how the county plans to use that?
well, twofold. I mean, I think, and Peter knows, we've been working for some time on trying to get a co-op center. We don't have that yet. We're a co-op insurance center, but in collecting that data, the other thing you're trying to build is a business use case, and it proved itself out. It proved itself out for Dignity with the number of people that are coming in. One of the things that when we do release that data that you'll see is that we had very difficult, and Peter, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you both can correct me if I'm wrong, but we had very difficult time actually ever getting traction with Kaiser patients during that time period, because they'd call Kaiser and they'd say no, and it was very confusing. So the fact that it's not seeing Kaiser patients really isn't that different than what was actually happening in practicality during that pilot period. And so, but I think, so there are a lot of insights to be seen. The other thing that we had difficulty, which is one of the reasons why we're expanding the Coastside Clinic, and when we talked about during the budget hearing, and I don't know if you heard Peter, but I talked to Colleen about the fact that we're also trying to figure out how we can get hours for the Coastside Clinic that would match those that you would have for vulnerable populations, because we really didn't see our most vulnerable populations using the Dignity Clinic in the numbers that we would have expected. But I think that has to do with the hours that it's open. And so if you follow healthcare, what you know is that our most vulnerable populations use emergency rooms because they're what's open when they actually can go to the doctor. And so we're trying to figure out how we can provide that, figure out how we address that as well. So I think it has, no, I think at the time we were running this pilot, it didn't have to do with the climate yet. I think it really just had to do with hours and availability. And also people were used to going to the Coastside Clinic. It was really interesting that at the time we finished the pilot, we also had the farm worker advisory come out and deliver a pretty critical report of the Coastside Clinic. And when they did, I thought, wow, like it was like there was an acknowledgement that there was this other urgent care that we should have opened up. And so it was very clear that we hadn't penetrated and that people still had trusted going to the Coastside Clinic in that population. So the idea now is, you know, we have the Coastside, we're going to have both work. And so there's enough there to make Dignity work. We're going to make the Coastside Clinic, so we're going to improve the Coastside Clinic. We're going to bolster it, supplement it. And then I think we're still long-term trying to figure out, you know, is it really trying to move to a co-op model in terms of trying to get one place where all of the insurance is accepted. So.
Thank you. So we'll have one final comment from Sid Young, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Let's see.
Sid?
I can't remember where to unmute. Hold on.
You're unmuted,
Oh,
Sid.
okay, good. All right. First of all, I did want to say I am Kaiser. I did go to your trial period, but when I called, the lady who answered the phone, and I don't think she was local, told me, "Oh, we don't take Kaiser." And I had just been to the meeting, I think Ray put it on over at the Ocean Colony, Harbor Village Event Center. And they had told us that they did take Kaiser, and I had to kind of go, yes, you do. They just said so at the meeting. And so I had to be very insistent to say that they do take Kaiser. And then she went and checked, and oh yeah, we do. So she gave me the appointment. But it was nice, but my main question now is, at that time I had just had knee surgery and I couldn't drive. So I had a friend drive me down to Half Moon Bay. If something like that were to happen again and I couldn't get over to Redwood City, would they take just a cash payment for a Kaiser
Yes.
patient or
Yes,
not?
they would. Yes.
That was a yes. Okay,
Yes.
because that other gal
They
that was
do-
talking made it sound like they wouldn't take Kaiser at all. So
I would say
thank you very much.
I would say two things to you, Sid. I think I would try that you could do the cash payment, or you could call Kaiser and tell them your predicament and ask me to see someone out of network.
Oh, I see. Hey Ray, I didn't know you were still here. Well, you're a trooper. Thank you.
I would try to get permission from Kaiser to see someone out of network though, which
Okay.
they have to allow you to do.
All right. Well, if by the time Seton reopens, that would be closer for me. But anyway, great.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ellie and Peter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
again.
very much.
I think I am gonna head out.
Yeah.
If you guys need me for anything, I'll stay if you need me for anything more.
No.
What else we have is
Seton.
Seal Cove and Seton, but you're welcome to leave.
Go home, Ray. Have a good
Thank you very much.
Thank you
I
for
can go home
coming.
now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've been sitting with us the whole time. Now you're official. I'll reintroduce
Would
Cliff
you like to take notes for
Ross from
meetings?
I took a few.
USGS to talk about Seal Cove. So go ahead.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Well, let's see if I can get this thing started. I have to go share, or what do I do?
Yes.
Share screen.
This?
Yeah. Your presentation, and then you would find your presentation in here. It's one of your screens.
There.
There you go. Did you do that? Double click.
There you are.
Takes a second.
You can enlarge your screen and it'll take up the screen.
It's great.
That work? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Can I get rid of these things on the right? They'll be in that way.
And we don't see it.
Good to see it's on you.
You're
No,
fine.
that's us.
That's for the public.
Okay, yeah, so I am retired, which is an interesting time of life, but yeah, several years ago, I retired from the U.S. Geological Survey. I was working in Menlo Park. The last part of my career there, I am was a hydrogeologist. That's a person who studies water in the ground. So you can pump groundwater out, water supplies for everywhere, like in Central Valley, in other countries. I worked all over the place. And I live in Seal Cove. And I've been living there about 15 years. And I go for walks all the time, and I'm always watching what's happening there because there are landslides occurring there actively. And over the last year and a half, they've gotten worse. There's been a lot of movement. So I just thought it might be helpful to give you some scientific but intuitive background into what's going on there, because I know that you're going to have deliberations with the county and with the Montara Water about, what can we do to help people, to help the community, to help landslides? Is that possible? So I want to give you some background about that. And it's a brief presentation that I have. So the geology of the Seal Cove area with a focus on why are the landslides happening there? Okay. So here we have an old map from 1980 of a study that was done in the Seal Cove area. And so you know where we are. Here's Princeton and Pillar Point at the bottom, El Granada, where we are now, Moss Beach, and up here, Montara. So I'll turn this map sideways. So now you see that, let me see if I can, hang on, I'll put on the kind of, there, laser pointer. This may help a little bit. Here's Pillar Point. So now we're looking sideways at the coast. This is also an old map done by a study of this area. And these pink red areas are areas where there's landslides. You can see the area going down to the beach.
The land is falling apart there. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And here's Seal Cove. These are the bluffs, this blue area here, which is really nice for walking, and people are there all the time enjoying it. They're about 100, 150 feet above the ocean, and they're composed of, these bluffs are composed of sediment and rocks, so loose material that if you have a shovel, you can easily scrape it away. Whereas I'll show you in a minute, other rocks below the ocean are solid, very, very solid. They're hard rock. So we'll get to that in a minute. So here we have an aerial view of Seal Cove. You can see the beach and you can see the cliff from above. And what I just wanted to show you here is in this area where there are landslides occurring now, they're actively occurring. Here's the edge of an old landslide. It's the cliff edge, and it's still landsliding a little bit. I'll show you more in a second. I'm going to zoom in. You can see here, big crack in the road. And if you've walked by there, it's very interesting to go there. From the geology point of view, the neighbors don't think it's very much fun, but, and they're right. Here's the beach, and I'll zoom in once more. And you can see a big crack in the road, and this part of Ocean Boulevard has been closed for some time. So it's happening. This is pretty new over the last years. Here's a view of the area nearby there in 2004. And you can see on the cliff face, and this is all the loose material that we live on at Seal Cove. It's unconsolidated sediment is what it's called geologically. Here's the beach. You can see where there's no plants. That's where it's actively falling down, the cliff face is falling down. Plants can't hang on there. Whereas in this area, there are plants growing, so there is not that much motion on the cliff edge there. It's pretty stable. So here's 2004, and keep your eyes on what happens on Ocean Boulevard in this area. Here it is. Look, it's totally broken. Here is a crack across the road. Here's a crack across the road, and even up this street, there are cracks across the street going back here. So something's happening. The new cliff edge is going to be back here, not here where it has been for a while. So the cliff edge is moving back and there's no stopping it. Why does that happen? Well, here is a picture of the bluff, the sediment that's been, I'll tell you in a second, raised out of the sea. These are contour lines showing how deep it is offshore. And then you see the area around us, the hills, very nice. Here's a beautiful picture of the offshore. And look at this, look at the patterns. And when you go and take a walk on the beach here, you can see those interesting patterns near shore. This goes far out offshore. We're talking about a mile out to here. Oh. So it go pretty far out. Those patterns are in hard rock. That doesn't landslide. It's very, very tough rock. The rock there is millions of years old. It's been formed a long time ago. So we're talking with this landslide, which happens from day to day. We're talking about something that's causing it that takes a long time, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of years. This area below the ocean was there for a long time, and interesting things are happening to it. Oh, I wanted to show you this before I went there. Do you see this line in the material at the rock at the bottom of the ocean? There's a line going up here. That's the Seal Cove Fault. And it goes right behind the bluff. So on the east side of the bluff where the hill drops back down. And then it goes back offshore here. You see it going up? Whoops. Yeah. And there's also a fault out here, which I'll show you in a second. So here's the Seal Cove Fault that some geologists have drawn. And here are ones that are farther offshore. So what do we have on the left in terms of really long-term geology? It's like the Earth has a life and it's millions of years old. This plate is called the Pacific Plate, and it's a big chunk of the Earth's crust, and it's moving northwest. It's scraping against the American plate, the North American plate, which is on this side, and on the other side of the San Andreas Fault, which is all the way over on the right. It's not on this picture, just across the hill, where the reservoir is, where the lakes are. And this whole area is a bunch of cracks between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. And this Pacific Plate is moving north at, oh, I don't know, 10 centimeters a year. That's 4 inches a year. on the average, but it gets stuck. So this is hard rock, and the two sides of the rock where there's a crack are stuck against each other, pressing real hard. And only every now and then is there enough force, because it wanted to move so far, for it to jump. And then it can jump up or down or sideways, and that's an earthquake. That's why we have earthquakes all up and down the California coast, because these two plates are rubbing against each other and they get stuck and then they move, they get stuck and they move again. Earthquakes. Okay. When an earthquake happens, the ground moves a little bit. And in this case, this area would be moving north of the North American plate, which is also moving very slowly, but to the southwest a little bit, centimeter a year. Not to get too complicated. The Pacific plate's the one that moves the most. It can also move up and down. So, in 100,000 years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, in this area, this whole area here was underwater. Now only this part is underwater. And when an area is underwater, here we are again, you can see the streams coming off of Montara Mountain, and there's streams coming here and there into Half Moon Bay. They carry sediment because water that rains on the mountains rubs on the ground. It roughs it up, it breaks it up, and sand and gravel and stuff go down the streams and get dumped in the ocean, where they dump in the ocean. And so there was a bed in this area, 100 to 200 feet thick, of sediments on top of this hard rock, of the pretty rock pattern that was here. Well, about 80,000 years ago, we're still talking a long time, this area started getting lifted up. It got lifted up out of the ocean, from below the ocean, and all those sediments, the 100, 200 feet of sediments that were underwater, they're now above ground. Seal Cove is one bit of that. This stuff on Seal Cove, this was deposited below the ocean a long time ago. Okay? So interesting. Well, what the heck happened to all the rest of the sediments that are out here offshore? There's the area up to where the offshore fault is. And it's possible that this is the entire area that was uplifted, not an ellipse, but somewhere in here. I'm just telling a story so you get a feel for how this works. This was lifted up perhaps, and all of the sediment in the hill that was lifted up above the ocean between the current coast, the current beach, and out here about a mile offshore, it's gone. It's gone. It's going now right here at the edge by landslides. It keeps falling off. And all of this, whether it's a half a mile out or a mile out, I'm not sure exactly how far the bluff extended in the past, it's gone. And it's gone because it's a natural process of erosion. So it's nothing that humans did and caused. And maybe in 10,000 years, there won't be any of the bluff left. It'll be all gone, all the way up to the airport. So here's how that works. You have a bluff, some raised area, and then you get slumping with a failure surface at the bottom. And at the toe of the slumping, you get a lot of broken material. And here it's on a road, but you can think of this as being the beach. The waves are there. They're going to wash away this material. And then the slump is going to happen even more. It's going to keep falling down because there's nothing holding it back. Okay, let's look at some more pictures of, let's see, let me get rid of this thing. Well, okay. Here's another picture from an old geology report of the area of a stable sea cliff from the bottom to the top, and here's the ocean. Well, the ocean is banging against the base of the sea cliff, and the sea cliff, you have to remember, it's unconsolidated gravel and sand. It's easy to break it. It's not hard rock. So the ocean eats away at the base of the cliff, and because there's an empty area under this vertical kind of wall, the wall falls down and all the material gets gathered on the beach. That's one kind of landslide. And so now the cliff has moved back from this line, the dashed line, to where it is in this picture. So that's one kind of slumping caused by the waves undercutting the cliff. Here are two other kinds of slumping. This is a translational slide. It's just a piece breaking off, sliding on a fracture surface, on a slippery surface. And here's the rotational slide. It's a circle, and it's pretty easy for something to turn on a circle if it slides. And think about what would make it slide more easily. Well, if the base here was wet, there was water in there, it would reduce the friction. And if there's enough water, you can pressurize it and push it apart a little bit so it slides more quickly, more easily. Okay. Here's a picture of Ocean Boulevard, which you can't drive on anymore, in Seal Cove. And there have been these kinds of circular faults mapped. And this is the base slide plane, but there's not just one, it's a little more complicated than that. Here's another one. And they're all moving relative to each other. So this chunk of bluff has moved down farther, this one less, and this one a little deeper. So there's pieces. It's just not an even process. It's nature. So it happens unevenly. And the rest of the bluff hasn't been touched yet by landslides on the right. Again, if you get a bunch of water into these cracks, it could lubricate it and make it go faster, slump faster. Here's a picture of right in our neighborhood in Seal Cove of a house that's still there. Here's a vertical line. You can see the slope of the roof of the house is tipped like it is here. It's tipped down to the right because this is rotating downward. The top surface is dipping down on the right. That's what's happening here. Perhaps the back of that slide is in vegetation here. And this whole area is a circular motion landslide, sliding on a circular motion on the bottom. Here's one down. It's kind of blurry. I got this picture from a TerraSearch report from a few years ago, 10 years ago. This used to be the ground surface in this direction. You can still see vegetation on it. It's pretty interesting. It happens all along the coast. You see the ground surface tipped in all different places right on the bluff, on the edge of the coast. So here's another one that's rotated off. This is happening all the time. And it's nothing that this house did. It's nothing that Fitzgerald Marine Reserve over here did. It just happens. That's how this works. So what controls how fast the landslides occur? How quickly the ground breaks up? Well, if there's an earthquake, things can happen because the ground shakes, and especially if there's a lot of rain, the ground is really wet, and there's an earthquake at the same time, things can move all at once. But that doesn't happen very often. The last Seal Cove earthquake was sort of 700 years ago. Maybe we're due for one, but every 700 years, that's not what's causing all the landslides to happen and the loss of the bluff. What does cause it is the wave erosion at the base. That's always happening. That's what we looked at already. The waves eating away at the base of the cliff. And water lubrication and pressurization of those fracture surfaces, the slide surfaces, that always occurs because it rains. Water seeps into the ground and it gets to those places, making it easier for the cliff to slide. It's not clear how fast it can slide, how much faster, but it's definitely one factor that lets it slide easier. That's kind of a gray area. What can you do about it? Well, there's no way to prevent earthquakes, so forget about that. At least they haven't figured it out yet. You can't stop the San Andreas from moving, right? It's the earth, it's big. What can you do about the wave erosion at the cliff base, eating from the base of the cliff? Well, you can build a wall, and that's what we're doing. We're talking about Surfers Beach. Well, there's a wall of huge boulders there. There are other places on the coast where they have cement walls just to block the cliff from the sea. It's pretty ugly, and I don't think people are going to want that everywhere, but that's the kind of thing that you guys have to talk about, I guess. So what can you do about it? And do you want to do that? Another thing that is possible to do is to prevent the rainwater runoff from getting in the ground. And in our neighborhood here, there's no stormwater drainage that you were talking about earlier as well. So all of the water from the roofs of the houses and from the streets run down the street to a particular place, run off and soak in particular places on the street. And at the end of the street where there are big cracks, because of the bluff moving, this landslides, the water goes straight down in there. Now, I'll mention this to you. The county filled that a couple of weeks ago, filled some of those new cracks with sand. Can water go through sand? Sure. Sure. So they weren't thinking about what they were doing. Instead of filling it with clay so the water wouldn't go in, they put sand in it. So it doesn't really matter. The water's going to go in it anyway. And perhaps that water lubrication and filling up with water at the base of that curved fault makes it go faster, perhaps. So one thing you might be able to do is prevent the rainwater runoff from going into the ground and from going into ground surface cracks. That's a drainage system that you would have for stormwater. Also, in some places, I don't think it's too critical here on the bluff in Seal Cove, but there could be groundwater piled up in the bottom. So it could be full of water from the base, the hard rock at the bottom, up to 10 feet above that or something. If there is such a place, then if the crack goes through that groundwater, then it's already lubricated. And what you would do is pump that out. That's done in other places on the coast here in California. Pump out the water so it gets out of that cracky area. So those are the kinds of things you can do. It's no guarantee you're not going to stop it. Maybe you're slowing it down. It's a little iffy. So it's things to think about. So in summary, what causes the Seal Cove landslides? They're a natural geologic process. They're not caused by humans. They're not caused by a leaking pipe that was broken by a landslide in Seal Cove. A lot of water came out, but those fractures had been occurring in the landslides for years. And over the last year and a half, I've been watching them. They've been occurring all the time. So nothing drastic happened after that main crack opened. These landslides have been happening for thousands of years in Seal Cove. If it went a half a mile or a mile offshore in the past, a bluff. So that's a different perspective than we have. People usually look at the bluff and they say, oh, look, this is terrible. It's falling apart. It's been doing that for thousands of years. There's nothing new. Okay. Perhaps some human actions can worsen the landslide development. They can make them move faster or cause new ones if you let rainwater run into the bluff, especially into the existing cracks, which some you can't see because they're hidden by plants that haven't been washed away yet. So maybe that would help. There's no promise. And that's what I wanted to show you. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
Pretty sobering.
Yeah. It's real. Geology is beautiful. I mean, these things are happening by themselves. The plates are moving. Just imagine that Earth has a life of its own. It's alive. It's really cool.
We've got a bunch of
You can tell
people.
I'm a geologist. So.
We've got 32 people online watching you right now.
Oh, okay.
And I think we'll ask them first if any of them want to make any kind of comments or questions, and then we'll go to the council. So is there anybody
I should stop
on
there.
Zoom with their yeah, that'd be good. With their hand up? I do not see anybody with their hand up, except for Sid. Okay, Sid, go ahead.
That's left over.
It might be left over.
I forgot to unmute. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I live in Seal Cove also. And
Yeah,
you said you go
I
for
said-
walks often. Do you know the cluster of mailboxes at the end of Madrone? It's just opposite the like Greek looking house that has, I don't know. I
The
don't know.
one that's chipping and there's an old woman living in there?
No.
Not that one. Okay.
Okay, that's at the end of San Lucas.
Oh,
If you
okay.
go one more block down, that's Madrone. And there's a whole cluster of mailboxes, and the county has engineered a drainage swale to run over the cliff right there where the mailboxes are. And it's eroding pretty bad right there. It used to be a puddle, and they made it so it will go into the ocean at that spot. And now it's really eroded the cliff. I don't know if you're familiar with the California Coastal Records Project, but it's a kind of wealthy couple that just used to go up and down the whole California coast and take pictures of the cliffs or the edges of the cliff. And actually, they got sued by Barbara Streisand for taking pictures of her Malibu mansion. Anyway, you can go back and see different years of Seal Cove and see the different states of the erosion. But you can see where different parts of the cliff have dropped off over the years, even out on the bluff out by the radar station or Air Force Station.
That's
anyway, the county has contributed to the
question.
drainage runoff right there at that part of Seal Cove by engineering all the runoff to go to that one spot. So they shouldn't have, because that down below is the ASBS, Area of Special Biological Significance, which is the Marine Reserve. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess you
another
didn't know that.
consideration. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I've seen, Sid, in some places along the coast, there are pipes that go down the cliff, a big pipe, I don't know, a foot or two across, I don't know the diameter. And that looks like it's for runoff, for rainwater runoff. They
Yeah.
dump it down either on the beach, I don't know how far it goes in the beach, maybe it goes right into the ocean. Or it gets dumped on the beach. If
I
it
know-
runs, if they route it to run over the edge of the cliff on soil, then it's going to erode the soil faster. It's going to erode the cliff faster. It
Right.
has to be inside something or on a concrete or asphalt surface if it's going to avoid doing that to the cliff.
Right. They didn't do that. It just runs right onto the dirt from the pavement.
I'll
You'll
look
see
at
it
what
next
you're
time
talking
if you
about.
go out when it's wet.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think Sarah Bunning had a question. Sarah?
Sorry, I don't have a question now, but in case I had one, I wanted to know how to put my hand up. I'm good, thanks.
Okay. We saw that you wrote something in the chat, so we're on it. Okay. Any other comments or questions from the public? If not, I'll go ahead and close the public comment and Gus, do you have not Gus?
I'm fine, thank you.
Whatever your name is, Scott.
Yeah. Probably goes.
Okay.
No, I'm fine. I have no
Okay.
questions.
Kevin?
I'm excited to have you here. You kind of look like Bill Nye the Science Guy. So for me, this was a fun presentation. And I mean that in the best possible way.
Yeah, thank you.
There are a lot of things that come to mind when looking at this, but as it pertains, I think, to the Midcoast Community Council and community members, it sounds like what you're saying is the earth is being pulled out and up, and therefore potentially affecting the households that are on Seal Cove. And I've noticed over the years more and more houses sitting on the market along the bluffs. And I was talking to a real estate, somebody who's in real estate here on the coast, who's saying it's getting harder and harder to insure some of these properties. That is a real world factor or co-factor.
It's feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. And
insurance companies aren't dummies. So yeah.
And also the number of lots of land that were deemed buildable, all of a sudden not being deemed buildable because they can't get insurance to underwrite that. So I don't know that you're an expert in this area, but have you noticed that in your community? Is that a buzz topic that comes up?
Well, quite a few houses have fallen off the cliff. There's in one of the pictures, I forgot to point at it, you could see the foundation on the beach still. There are quite a few, I can't remember, I'm guessing 10-ish that were on the ocean side of Ocean Boulevard. So they were on the edge and they're gone. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's just what happens. And the people, I was told that the county, and I'm confused about this, I wish Ray was still here if he knew the answer, but the county asks people to sign a waiver if they're in, there are a couple of geological zones, that's what they're waiting for, the county, to redraw the zones. And it doesn't take that much to draw them. You just walk in the neighborhood and you can see where all the cracks are. So you just put those on a map. And other people have done that.
I wonder how many people have signed that.
I see.
Yeah, so a story that I heard was that back in the 80s, county said, no, you can't build there on the edge because it's dangerous. I'm telling you a story. I don't know if it's true. Someone else told me this, but it's interesting. And that owner of the lot took them to court, sued the county for not letting them build there because it was their lot, something like that. And they lost. The county won. But after that, the county turned around and said, well, okay, we're going to allow people to build there in that danger zone if they sign a waiver. So that's what I know. I don't know how true that is, but
Can
I've
I
heard that
correct
it's
you?
something to investigate.
I live in Seal Cove and I was a realtor.
You can't
Carla.
speak out, so we wait for everybody to get through, please.
Yeah, we've closed public comment at the moment.
Thank you.
Kimberly, you had something you wanted to ask?
Oh, I just wondered, I see that Ann Stillman is in the audience and I wondered if she had anything that she might want to say.
Ann Stillman?
If she does, she can speak up.
This is Ann Stillman, Director of Public Works, and I'm just listening to the various conversations.
I'm glad you did. Thank you. Chris, did you have something?
Yeah, I read the Cotton report, you know, the 1980 report, and tried to catch up on some of the
Some of this was from that. Yep.
newer material. Yeah, and I think back then they mapped like 4 risk zones, and then the county revised it down to 3.
Right.
And I wondered if you think that those, given the way the land is moving there, the geological history of it, sort of the inevitability of it.
Yeah.
If we're kind of making it a little too fine grained to say, okay, on this side of this line, you're okay. Between this zone, you're kind of okay. Out here, you're really doomed, but but you're there, so we're gonna leave you alone for now. It seems like it's a kind of cutting it a little bit close.
Yeah, and I don't. The geologic reports draw exact lines for zone 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly where the pictures I showed you where those cracks happened. You couldn't predict exactly where they were going to happen in the future. They just start happening. It's just random. It's like, where does a wave hit the beach, here or there? Does it make a little bump on the sand here or there? You don't know that beforehand. So these things just kind of happen. So drawing fuzzy zones is a good thing. They're drawing sharp lines. Maybe they mean them to be fuzzy, but the county or whoever's responding to it, and I don't think Montero Water has to deal with the zones. I'm not sure, but which house is on which side of the zone 1 line is going to make a difference to how one reacts, how the county, how the government, whatever reacts to it. So that is a good question of what to understand about the zones, how to use them, or is there another way to designate areas? It's a good thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I don't have the answer. I mean, it's something we're thinking about.
Well, I have a hydrogeological question then, a follow-up. You mentioned that there could be groundwater in the rotational blocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
There could be, but is it known whether or not that those blocks have a substantial amount of groundwater, and would that contribute to massing of those blocks that help them move downward in addition to the lubrication of the?
They could. Well, if there was water sitting on top of the fracture was a place where water couldn't get through easily, so water ponded on top of it, except that also made it slide sideways. It's possible that there are patches of water down there in places. There's likely patches of water or a whole layer on top of the bedrock, the stuff you see offshore, where the sediment starts to build up from there. It's sitting right on the bedrock.
Yeah.
Where the bluff sediment sitting there. So probably there's some water down at the base of that. But that's not the place where the landslide is occurring. It's higher up in the bluff. It's not exactly down at the beach level.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it contributing to the mass of the.
It makes it heavier.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that which seems like further argument to try to control runoff from impervious surfaces, concentrating right into those, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's something to think about and talk to. I wish you were here and heard about it, but they're thinking about a lot. There's so many angles on all these things. I hear from all the things you were talking about. It's very interesting and not easy to do what you guys are doing. So, Connie?
You mentioned, thanks for your report, really great. You mentioned that there's some places along the coast that are actually pumping that water out. Where does that happen?
I don't remember. There are places where the whole community was sinking. I can't remember the place. I read it in one of the reports that I have. I could find it and let you know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And then just concerns about people walking around up there. Do you have concerns about that? You know, there's really, you just see very minimal signs up there about staying away from the bluff.
That's for people falling off the edge if they do something
silly.
silly.
Minimal signs up there.
Yeah, it's not, they usually don't happen suddenly. If you're standing somewhere, suddenly the ground gives way and you fall down the cliff. It's not how they happen. They're slower than that.
Thanks.
Cliff, that was what a great name.
Yeah.
You've probably heard that. You've probably heard that before, right?
Yes. Drop over some time. That's
Yeah.
what I do.
Thank you. This was really very informative and gives us a good groundwork, so to speak, as we continue to look at this. Thanks for coming.
Thanks
very much.
Again, if you want.
Okay.
Oh, maybe after the.
We have 2 more items. The next one is
Claire, would you like me to answer Chris's question about the zones?
No, not right now, thanks. Maybe you can have to do that offline. Kimberly has got the next topic, which is around the Highway 1 Burnham Strip parking issue. So
Well, I'm gonna buy us some time here because some of the speakers I reached out to weren't able to come to this meeting, and then some did not respond. So I'd kind of like to postpone this item to one of the July meetings, just so that I would have more to report. Currently, just so you're aware, there's two ongoing projects. There's the Highway 1 multi-asset roadway rehabilitation project, which we've heard about before. And the issue there is the 75 parking spaces that were appealed to the Coastal Commission, and the Coastal Commission asked Caltrans to find replacement for that parking. So that is ongoing. There are conversations happening. I alluded to that in my question to Janine earlier. So more to come on that. And then the other issue is the renewal of the Caltrans coastal development permit at Surfers Beach for their long-term plans for what they will do with the highway. And that you are correct. It was due this month. And they are working on it. And that will be released at some point, and it will come to the Coastal Commission. So I have some conversations lined up to ask more about that, but I don't have that information now. So those are the two big things that I wanted to talk about tonight. And so hopefully we'll have more information in July.
Kimberly, I have just a very general question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Have they indicated that they're still amenable to public comment or input in this process, especially as it pertains to
Who is they?
Especially as it pertains to the parking lot, so that group of individuals?
So do you mean Caltrans, the Harbor District, the county, or Half Moon Bay?
Caltrans, I would believe would.
So these are multi-jurisdictional, it's a multi-jurisdictional area, unfortunately. And it involves all of those stakeholders. So Caltrans is the lead agency in question right now because it's their project.
Right.
And I'm sorry, you asked me.
So there's several community initiatives right now signing petitions, et cetera, that want to, speak out against this and don't want this to happen, and other types of questions. But I wasn't sure if Caltrans was even open to hearing these questions, if they're moving forward, and if it's just black and white and that's it.
I think yes and yes.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to think not. And so I will say I've been actively pursuing conversations to try and get more information, and to, as I said tonight to Janine, to have them take us seriously as a primary stakeholder, because we are a primary stakeholder. We are where this project happens. And unfortunately, there are conversations going on with City of Half Moon Bay, who is far away, but their interest is more revenue oriented. Because they get the revenue from those businesses that exist there past that.
Well, mine was
area.
very general. It sounds like there's still conversations being had.
Right. And then with the Harbor District, who is continuing to pursue their idea of parking, which was a separate project, but now seems to be overlapping and might be proposed for that mitigated 75 spaces.
What Caltrans has said to us when we tried to set up this meeting is, yes, of course, we're stakeholders in this and we should be included, and then they don't include us. So it's yes and yes. But the fact that Ray is in the process of writing a letter to the Harbor District saying that we need to be included is a step in the right direction.
Great, thank you so much.
So we'll see.
Thanks for being on top of it.
Thanks.
Keep pushing on it.
I mean, I think, the MCC can stand up and we can keep pushing for this, we can keep pushing to be included. But ultimately, if we do keep being ignored, I think the constituency has to stand up and make their voices heard, make Send your comments to the Coastal Commission, send your comments to Caltrans, send your comments to the county if we don't get any traction.
So the reason that I asked it is I know a neighbor who has over 1,000 signatures on a change.org petition right now regarding the Harbor District, which looks like it's being blended into Caltrans, perhaps. And I told them that most of what we would do would be to send a letter and recommend certain actions and try to, push in a certain direction. And she has mentioned that she would be very happy to just coordinate with the MCC and kind of add that quantifiable amount of community input to whatever recommendation or letter was to go out.
I think that would be helpful. The supervisor has said that, the more comments we have where we can quantify public sentiment, the better. And this would be one project that it would be very important to have that on.
Have her reach out to you directly.
Sure. And sorry, go ahead, Connie.
I was gonna say, the other thing that we're trying to work on in outreach is how do we then, that we'll talk about in the July meeting, how do we help mobilize the community to do that? And I think it's really important for us to find ways to do that. It's not just an individual person, but to your point, if we have to rally the community to get out and speak out, we've got to find ways to do that.
Right. I mean, ideally, it should work the other way, right? We represent the community.
Yeah, but if they're, to say, this is how we can influence decisions, we need your support in doing that. If that's what you want, then that's the way to do that, right?
That's right.
We have to create the vehicles.
I think also making the other agencies understand, and I was going to mention this to Scott for his update to the Half Moon Bay City Council next time.
Yes.
I don't think Half Moon Bay understands that people are upset about those proposals. They're sort of insulated from that, and so it would be good to bring that to their attention.
I'll do it again, but maybe 3 meetings ago that I attended, I did say that City of Half Moon Bay, given the carve out for their property versus the unincorporated, includes that section of highway, right? Because it loops around and grabs Sam's and all that. So they are aware, but I will bring it up again.
Okay, I mean, maybe we can talk about how you can frame it so that.
Sure, I'll say whatever you'd like me to say. I don't have any problem with that.
And the only other thing I would mention is that I had the opportunity to just walk around to some of the businesses on this side. 3 of them were not aware of the Harbor District proposal, and it would directly impact them because they're right in front of that property. So there's a lot of outreach that still needs to happen.
The guy that manages Sam's is my neighbor, so I will ask him if he knows about that.
Well, Sam's definitely knows about it because Half Moon Bay council members have made comments about how I'm a little nervous about going into this, but and I think I've said this before, that there's some unhappiness with the fact that Half Moon Bay wants something to benefit Sam's versus the rest of the unincorporated area. So I don't know that would sit well.
Okay. So while we're having this discussion, I just want to ask you this question, and I'm throwing this out to anybody. So is Caltrans and the harbor leveraging both their positions to support the new parking lot, which is going to be north of the Burnham Strip?
So at this point, it's leaning in that direction.
Okay, because they could work together or take away these 75 and put them over here.
So there's one problem to that, right?
Oh, there is?
The Harbor District is promoting their project as a solution to, this is my understanding.
Okay.
They're promoting that proposed parking lot as a solution to the 75 spaces that Caltrans needs to replace. But they're having these conversations directly. They're not including all the stakeholders. And so these decisions, kind of have the feel of a backroom deal, without public participation. And so that, I think it needs to have the public input that it deserves.
I want to go just quickly back to what Connie was saying. I think outreach or advocacy is actually both directional. So it's not just one direction. There are often times where this group gleaning information from going to different meetings and hearing from different stakeholders within the community, then make recommendations. But it is indeed important for us to be able to conduct outreach as it pertains to certain matters like this. I think it just happens to be luck that there's this individual who came to me, emailed me, knowing that I was on the MCC and said, hey, I have 1,000 signatures and people who would be willing to show up and give, public comment or have some say in this. So I will reach out to that person. I will connect them to you. I will connect them to Ray if Ray has not already seen that petition with the 1,000 signatures of people who are directly impacted by that.
So I think our job is to get voices heard, to have our community heard. We have to be careful because I don't think our job is we're not an advocacy organization. We advocate on behalf of the residents.
That's right.
That
is
right. But you see what I'm getting at, right?
Yes, what they want, not what we decide.
Right,
But they-
exactly.
Yeah.
No one is asserting that. You didn't assert that. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
All in agreement, how we help the community.
Are there any other questions, discussion?
I'm surprised and pleased by the level of community, speaking out about this, especially after the whole public review process with the GCSD and the shifting of publicly accessible parking as part of that plan into the neighborhoods. So maybe that kind of helped to wake people up, that this is happening. There's going to be there's been a continuous sort of, eastward shift of parking off the highway, and it's going to end up in the neighborhoods.
Well,
even with this parking lot, which, makes up for a small portion of the coastal use in this area.
I think at a previous meeting, that reminds me that Steve Terry had some wonderful ideas, and I think it's important to go at this with some solutions in your pocket, right? To suggest some things that are actually viable, that could work for them to consider, because they're only hearing from one voice about an option, and they need to be considering other, multiple options.
So when you do part 2 of this item, we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Maybe.
I think we'll go ahead and close this for right now, but it does sound like there's a lot of discussion that is going to be important to have. The last item on the regular agenda.
Hello, Clark, can I just make a quick comment before we close it? I had my hand up.
You can close public comment, but I'll let you go ahead and make a
I had my hand up.
Go ahead, Dan.
Dan talks.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, thank you for bringing this forward, and I look very much to seeing what happens between now and part 2 of this discussion. So yes, the community is an issue with this, and issue with essentially the Harbor District, essentially making this decision well before any communication with the community, essentially making the purchase and just basically pushing this on us. Initially saying, oh, it's for an overflow use. After a little while, and they admit that, oh, no, well, we want to have the west side to be a revenue generation. So it's pretty obvious to most people that this is really a parking lot for their new revenue generation that has not been announced yet. So it's a little bit of misleading in my opinion, and clearly, anyway, I'll stop there. I look forward to the part 2. Thank you.
Well, you were instrumental in making this happen, Dan, so thank you.
Thank you all. Okay.
Okay. Okay, the last item on the agenda, I think will be quick. Deborah Penrose and I talked to the Attorney General's office last week regarding Seton Coast site. And just to refresh everybody's memory, when the Seton facilities were sold in 2020, they were there was a requirement that the Attorney General oversee their operations since it was being sold to a nonprofit and they require some oversight. So at that point, they were told that they had to provide this, can you mute him?
Len, can you mute yourself?
Dan?
It's Len.
Yes, Len.
Len, okay. At that point, Seton was told they had to, Seton Coastside was told they had to have the SNF, they had to have an emergency room, and they had to have some acute care beds. When we talked to the Attorney General, they felt like the case was still open, but that they were negotiating in good faith. They did expect the place to open up again. And they expected that when it did open up again, the time that the Attorney General was in charge of what operations they provided was going to be extended for whatever length of time they've been closed. So we're probably looking at another 2 years or so of the Attorney General overseeing their operations and saying what they can and can't do. So what we did, this is mostly an age-friendly thing, but Connie wrote the letter. We are asking the Attorney General, when they make their final decree about the current lawsuit against Seton Coastside, to consider requiring them to provide urgent care, which they can do. They said they are willing and able to do that if that's what they decide. So that's basically what this letter says. You may want to describe the letter further, Connie.
Well, hopefully you guys had a chance to look at it, but it was really essentially the need for the support of the community, especially, with, while Dignity has done a great job and we really appreciate it, there are limited services there and limited hours that we talked about. And so we're really looking for something that's more extensive that can provide, radiology type things or labs, just more extensive services. And they've got the facility and they're interested in doing it. And so, for the community and the risk that we all have with not only the number of residents that we have, which is about 25,000, what we also found from working with Crystal in the chamber is that there's actually about 4 million visitors that come to the coast annually. So there are a lot of people over here, and I just feel like, that isn't always represented as well as we could in terms of, yes, it's community need, but we also have a huge influx of people who come over here that need services as well. And, want them to consider that as something to help the community. So that's really the gist of the letter, to really work with the opportunity to leverage their facility.
And if it can be court ordered essentially that they have urgent care, then there will be urgent care. And they are in a position to do that. This letter is not something that we're sending. This is something that's going to be sent, we hope, jointly from Age Friendly, Senior Coastsiders, MCC, PMAC, and City of Half Moon Bay. So we're asking tonight for a vote that we agree to the sense of the letter and would put our signature on it when it is sent. Yeah.
I'm voting yes, but I just have to ask you one question. Are we asking for emergency room services and urgent care?
We're leaving that up to them.
Okay, so in this letter, it specifies urgent care only.
It could be either urgent care or urgent care and emergency services, whichever the Attorney General decides to do. Is that correct? Basically.
Yeah, we noted that there's essential care there, but it isn't filling the gap for urgent care. That's what we're looking for, some urgent care support.
Okay.
I think what Scott's saying is in the letter exclusively, does it say both or?
Because it's been, whenever they come and talk to us, it's always unclear what's going on. And so, but I don't want you to change anything when the Seton people come and talk to us.
They are currently court mandated to have emergency room care.
Okay.
Whether or not they continue to be court mandated to have that is up to the Attorney General.
Okay.
We're just asking that urgent care start to become part of the permanent solution.
That sounds great to me.
Can I ask a clarifying question, please?
Yes.
Are we still looking for additional organizations or groups to co-sponsor this letter with to add some extra strength to it?
We're not sure.
Okay.
We're not really totally in charge of this.
Sure, I understand, but
What were you gonna suggest?
I mean, I was just thinking about all of the interpersonal relationships that this group personally has with different organizations here on the coast side that may be interested in this and may have us, be seen as a stakeholder in this. So
We're having a meeting tomorrow morning to decide that particular issue.
okay,
Yeah, if you have recommendations, it's certainly to hear them.
okay.
Yeah.
I move we pass it and vote on this.
So it's like,
I'm voting yes, but
You have to say second.
I second.
So
Okay,
wait,
let's
you have
have
to
a
say,
vote.
what are we voting on? Are we voting to support whatever final form of the letter that the
Yes.
group comes up with? You need to be specific.
So I motion that we approve the letter as written by Connie and Claire and presented to us this evening.
or with allowing for minor variations.
Absolutely.
That's non-substantial, but.
Yes.
Modifications.
I second that motion with the potential of reaching out to you perhaps tomorrow with some other stakeholders who may be interested in doing that.
Any other further discussion? Could you call the roll, Connie?
Sure. Scott,
Yes.
Devin,
Yes.
Kimberly,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Bonnie, yes.
Okay, thank you. So, council activity,
I can start if you'd like.
go ahead.
So I have a couple of things. GCSD had a special meeting. I'm sorry,
Could I just, there was another Seton letter,
We already, that was with
the
the,
consent.
that was
Okay.
in consent and that was about code violations.
Right.
Okay.
So GCSD had a special meeting. I was not in attendance. I did review the broadcast that was made available. I think it's an interesting watch. At some point, I think that I heard the board president say that she was trying to skew candidates younger than those who were there, which seemed a bit ageist to me, and I don't know, kind of sounded weird. Other than that, there's nothing from the GCSD. They canceled their meeting for this month. And is this a good time to give an update about our outreach and my conversation with Gus regarding the newsletter?
I guess so.
It can go whenever you tell me to put it, wherever you tell me.
Well, I know you guys have an outreach thing on the next meeting.
We do. We do. We scheduled another meeting so that we can create the actual presentation, but we will be ready and prepared to be agendized for the future meeting.
I think that's enough to say about that.
That's all I had to say.
Okay.
Is GCSD giving any indication about holding a public information meeting as requested by the county?
So the information that was presented, I think Barbara Dye is here and may be able to speak to that if she can, but from what I gathered, they looked at the candidates, they did a review in real time. I think they called it pros and not cons, but concerns that they discussed about each candidate as it was happening.
I'm sorry, I was asking specifically about the county's review of the park plan.
They did not, this was a special meeting to fill the slot of the vacant seat. This had nothing to do with current GCSD business. And their next meeting has been canceled, which is tomorrow.
Did you have anything about that poster or was that for later?
I do. I thought he was asking a question. So
Yeah.
So in terms of Lisa Ketchum, there was a memorial. It was lovely. We had a poster that was brought in that was made available for individuals to sign. I signed it. I know everybody else that was there also signed it. I spoke to, the question was, can this poster live inside this building somewhere? I did have an opportunity to speak with Hope Atwood about this, and it sounds like the more plausible or feasible solution would be to do a photograph similar to the ones that exist out on the wall currently outside here in the lobby for Lisa Ketchum to be displayed instead of a very large poster that has signatures on. So we may return that to the creator of that and post a photograph of Lisa Ketchum in memoriam up here.
So that's Barbara, right there.
Barbara?
Yes, hi. I just thought I'd respond. The county, the timing hasn't happened yet. The meeting was canceled for this month because it was on a federal holiday. And then it turned out that previously scheduled vacations made a special meeting, which was supposed to happen tomorrow night, is not going to happen. So we will have a meeting in July. I am pushing very hard for more public outreach at this point. So you will be seeing it in the months ahead.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, anybody else with council activity? Okay.
Love the silence.
So future agendas, I think next meeting, you guys have got your outreach pro thing.
Yes.
We've got an update from Dave Olson about the Pillar Point Bluff project for Lisa. And there's something else. Oh, yes. Part 2 of the parking on Highway 1 thing.
We did want to mention that we asked Crystalline if she would come and speak as part of our presentation. Does that need to be part of the?
You can have a speaker at your presentation, that's fine.
No, she was gonna talk beyond that also.
Right.
I sent that to you, so I'll send it for, just talk a little bit about visitors and what's happening here from the community standpoint for the population coming in.
It's connected to our work, but it's separate as well. She wanted to present.
If you could make it as much a part of your presentation as possible, because
I think
we actually may have more important things that we would want to put on the agenda.
I think Connie and I can work that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Connie?
I don't mean that there's anything more important than tourism, but if it was a standalone agenda item, we might want to prioritize it somewhere.
Sure, understood.
But if you want her to talk as part of your thing and tie it in somehow, that would be
Yeah, she was
probably better.
looking at the note I sent you because it was on coastside, tourism on the coastside as well, so we can talk to her about it.
Yeah.
She has statistics, I think new statistics on kind of what's going on, so.
She did provide a lot of helpful information. I'll say so. I'm sure it will work. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't do it. I just
No,
say,
I get it.
yeah.
We'll try to make it seamless.
Okay.
Should we adjourn?
Yeah, I guess so.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn, or are we
I
just?
don't know, we get the motion.
We don't do that. We decided we don't. do that.
We just
I have so many community members say, could you please motion to adjourn?
We have to leave pretty quickly too, so that the only key is in the possession of the TV people.
Okay. All right, thank you, everybody.